The woman behind me is Helle Crafts, and her case is one of the most disturbing examples of spousal violence and homicide I've ever heard, and her story deserves to be told. Reminder that I tell a lot of dark true crime stories on this channel, so viewer discretion is advised, but follow along if you'd like to hear more. So this is Helle Craft. She was born in Denmark, but she moved to Connecticut and wound up getting married to a man named Richard Craft. And they seemed to be perfect. He was an airline pilot, she was a flight attendant, they had 3 children together, and it seems like an idyllic life. Helle sensed a shift in her husband's behavior and suspected that he may be cheating on her. Her husband continuously and angrily denied that he was having any affairs. But Helle was like, okay, but why are you so defensive? So she decided to take matters into her own hands and hired a private investigator to see if he was cheating or not. And it turned out he was. The private investigator had no trouble at all capturing images of her husband and another flight attendant embracing. Helle fully intended to use this evidence for her divorce proceedings. Then on November 18th, 1986, Helle disappears. After returning home from a flight to Germany, her friends dropped her off at home, and that was the last time they ever saw her alive. When her friends asked where she was, her husband would always come up with ridiculous excuses. Like she went to visit her mother in Denmark, she went to the Canary Islands, and then after a while he just said he didn't know where she was. Her friends immediately sensed foul play because before her disappearance she actually gave them an eerie warning. She said, "If something happens to me, don't assume it was an accident." So her friends and the private investigator she hired refused to back down and insisted that they search their home. And there were some major red flags, including missing carpet, bloodstains, and Richard's recent purchase of a freezer and wood chipper. The police got a lead from a snowplow driver that spotted Richard the night that Helle disappeared by a nearby lake. When investigators searched the lake, they made a gruesome discovery. They found bone chips, tissue, a pink fingernail, a tooth crown, and 2,660 blonde hairs. Forensic evidence showed they all belonged to Helle. Investigators believe that Richard killed Helle, froze her body, dismembered her with a chainsaw, and then fed her remains into a wood chipper. Proving a murder without a body back then was incredibly difficult. So the prosecution actually used a frozen pig carcass to show the effect that a wood chipper would have on the body. Richard Craft was convicted of murder and sentenced to 50 years in prison, but was released in 2020 for good behavior. Helle's story is a reminder that this kind of violence can creep into anyone's lives, and that we should always listen to our intuition.